Hey friends, hey, it's Lisa from Black Women Stitch and the Stitch Please podcast. And do you want to stay in the loop with everything Black Women Stitch? Sure you do. So our weekly newsletter is where it's at. You'll get podcast updates, community news, behind the scenes peeks, and ways to support the work we're doing. Whether you're a longtime listener or just getting to know us, this is the easiest way to stay connected. So click the link and sign up today. Promise we will not flood your inbox, just your creative spirit. Thanks so much. See you soon.
Hello, Stitchers. Welcome to Stitch Please, the official podcast of Black Women Stitch, the sewing group where Black Lives Matter. I'm your host, Lisa Woolfork. I'm a fourth-generation sewing enthusiast with more than 20 years of sewing experience. I am looking forward to today's conversation, so sit back, relax, and get ready to get your stitch together.
Hey friends, hey, it's Lisa from Black Women Stitch and the Stitch Please podcast. And as I say every week, this is a very special episode because this episode features none other than the award-winning podcaster, the mind behind Mind the Forest podcast, Kristine McPartlin. Welcome, Kristine, to the Stitch Please podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Lisa. I'm very excited to do this with you today.
I am delighted to have you, and thank you for taking the time. I was so excited to have you here because of your fashion background. You were a student at FIT, which is the Fashion Institute of Technology. You took a variety of courses, the things that you studied, and I was really interested in, as we're talking about this month, we're talking about costumes and costuming. How can we understand the role that a costume plays in the development of a character? And how does that show up in the world of Star Wars?
Oh, goodness. That is a very exciting question. I love putting this hat back on because I mean, my education and my time in museum studies and costume and textile history, honestly, it was probably my first like nerdy love affair where I'm like, I just spent 2 wonderful years in that program just nerding out on everything I ever wanted to learn. Like, it was really great. And now, like, to find that marriage between that and Star Wars, and
is it like two loves? It's like when you have a friend group or separate friend groups, and then one friend from one and one friend from the other, and then the three of you all click, and it makes that friendship that much more rich and exciting. And yes, you still have your individual interests and commitments, but when the three of you get together, it's just like, yay!
Exactly. It's like perfect sides of like a Venn diagram. Where like you have the part in the middle that just like meshes. Like you said, you have the individual parts, but all those parts that mesh together are just like so rich and satisfying. I mean, I think that's the wonderful thing about costume design is that you're telling a story within the clothes. Like when it's done really well, you can have so much detail in the smallest thing, whether it's like a certain silhouette or a certain color or how it's supposed to be communicating. And you have that, and you can have that in very modern ways. You can have that in like you'll have like a period piece, and you can have that in like very historic context, and it can really tell its whole own story.
Wow.
And it's really marvelous. And there's a lot of detail in the costumes in Star Wars. And I mean, I've spoken with you like at length about like particular categories that really excite me.
We haven't told the folks at the Stitch Please podcast about this. So you did tell me, so we have to tell other folks. But let me ask this question first. Do you have a sewing story?
Do I have a
Do you sew, and do you have a sewing story? Did you have to know how to sew or learn how to sew when you were at FIT?
So I did. So I learned how I learned how to do a lot of simple sewing when I was a little girl. My mom taught me on like cross stitch patterns
Yes,
and
yes,
pictures,
yes,
which actually I picked back up as an adult, and I do for when a friend is having a new baby.
yes.
I like to make like a picture for them and I frame it.
Oh,
Because you know when like you're going like you grow up and like you have all these like nostalgic things around where you're like,
yes.
oh, I can't throw that thing out. My aunt made that for me,
That's
or my
right. That's right.
grandma made that for me. Or they're going off to college and they're trying to like tidy their stuff and they're like, well, I can't get rid of that because
Right.
someone I love made that for
Made
me.
that for me. And
So
I'm
I
also
started
not a total
making
jerk.
right, no, not a jerk. So I started making that. I started making those. So I made like
Oh,
really small cross stitches for my godson. I made a really big one for my friend's son out in LA.
oh, that's so
And
lovely.
you know, and there's so many patterns online. It's very fun.
Yes.
But for school, I definitely had to do a lot more sewing. Not only, especially I was a conservation focus.
Oh,
So I
that's right. That's
studied
right.
not only like historic textiles and like fashion history,
Yes.
but also the preservation of historic textiles.
Yes.
Is what I focused on.
It definitely seems like when you think about the preservation of textiles, that really is the preservation of a culture's story.
100%.
There are things that fabrics can reveal about, the past, the present, their uses, their composition, and all of that people might not think about when they go to make something. But when you look at some of the costumes in Star Wars, I see at least some very careful decision making about who's wearing what and what is it made of and what color is it and how much fabric is used in the construction of it. So it really is it a language? Is it a vocabulary of a language? Do we imagine it as the letters that you need to make the words? Like, if I were to kind of think of some kind of analogy for how this operates, I don't know. That's it. Hopefully I'll think of it by the time we wrap up. But there's something about the ways that fabric and clothing, when they are tasked with a job, and that job is to tell a story.
I think the first thing, particularly Star Wars related, that comes to mind is even I think about like Return of the Jedi.
Okay.
When you
yes.
had, by the time you had that third movie coming out and Luke's whole journey through learning to become a Jedi and training with Yoda and like finding out that Vader was his father and what did that mean to him, and finding that balance in the Force between the light side and the dark. His costume in that movie, it's by the third movie, he's wearing black. He's wearing all black, but he has this kind of like
interesting
side button zip situation, and the flap comes over, and the flap is light colored.
Interesting.
And so he has all this dark, and he has all this like internal battle that he's doing, trying to like come back and save his father, save Vader from the dark side. And like considering, should I join my father on the dark side? It's that like push and pull of that like dark and light, like that's part of Luke's journey.
Yes.
But he has that flap of light to really to communicate to the audience. Like, I'm not all the way far gone.
Right. Exactly.
And then they also carried that on, that kind of like same color theory.
Yes.
They carried that on then into the prequel movies that came out like in the early 2000s, all that time later, where by the third movie, by Revenge of the Sith, Anakin's in all black.
Yes. And that signifies something different. What does it mean that Anakin's wearing all black?
So it means that pretty much by the time we see his character in Revenge of the Sith in episode 3, that the years of grooming that Palpatine has put in and the inner conflict that he has with, well, I have all this power and I don't really know what to do. And all I want to do is save Padme. I want to save my wife. And now she's pregnant, and it's all just about that. But I'm so conflicted with the Jedi and like my questioning of my morale,
right?
That he's just one step over from the dark side. And that's really to clearly show that's going to be his path. And we as the audience know that.
Right. That's right. Because
like we know, like, you're going to be Vader by the end of this movie. We don't know how it's going on, but that's what's going to happen.
Exactly. Yes.
And I love moments like that where it's like, this is communicating what you as the viewer already know, but we want to make that visually clear. We want to make that narratively clear.
Yes.
And they could communicate that with the movie on mute.
Right. Oh, that is interesting. That is interesting. And you are giving us a good sense of how costumes play a role in the action. How the ways that people are outfitted, or the ways that the stormtroopers look, the ways that the Mandalorians look, like all of these different, you can tell in some ways, maybe this is not true, but I wonder let's find out. Do you believe that you can tell if someone is a good guy or a bad guy based on how they dress in Star Wars?
Yeah, that's a thing. It's a very classic trope, especially in kind of like this like morale-based cinema. I think that we get a little bit more nuance these days because you have anti-hero stories and you have like villain origin stories, and we want that nuance and that color and that gray area.
Yes,
but I think especially with, and maybe you get that a little more in like new Star Wars, but old Star Wars, it's very like old school Western style, like dark hat bad, white hat good.
That's right. That's right. What was the thing?
It's very classic trope.
Yes, that's true. Okay.
Like blonde hair, blue eyed good guy fighting the darkly dressed.
Exactly. Yes. Or like maybe dark skin and dark hair. And the way that they also would signal racial difference among white people with blonde and brunette, and who was the villain, and Veronica being in what was it, the Jughead comics, or anyway, child, a mess. But I wonder if you would be willing to expound on a theory that I have, and I don't think it's not a profound theory. I think this is something that will probably be common knowledge to you. Why does the Empire dress like Nazis? Hey friends, hey, it's Lisa from Black Women Stitch and the Stitch Please podcast. Our Patreon community is growing and we'd love to have you in it. We recently updated our membership tiers, and now it's easier than ever to support the work of Black Women Stitch while getting exclusive perks just for you. You'll find full-length talks, behind-the-scenes updates, bonus episodes, and access to videos from the podcast and beyond. Your support helps fund the podcast, pay our team, and keep this movement going strong. Every dollar truly makes a difference. So if you've been thinking about joining, now is the perfect time. Black organizations face increasing funding challenges. Community support closes that gap. Head to our Patreon community and choose the tier that feels right for you. And thank you. Why do they do that?
Well, because they're supposed to represent Nazis.
Because with the tight little hat, with the little tiny brim, like, first of all, why is the brim of the hat so small? And y'all are always indoors. Why do you need a brimmed hat?
Why are you wearing a hat? You're inside.
Why are you wearing a hat inside? Why is your hat so ridiculously small? It's like a dog with a sweater. Okay, so I'm going to laugh at you. Okay, just like I do at dogs with sweaters.
You know what's actually quite interesting? So, I mean, that really ties in heavily into the history of military dress, which is quite an interesting history. Like, particularly within like a Eurocentric lens, but I think that really molds over into like how that's influenced other cultures, and then maybe how other cultures have come in and influenced that.
Or in particular, like, how does one outfit fascism? Because if we think about what Germany wanted, was they wanted in World War II they wanted Berlin to become a fashion capital, And so with the collaboration of Coco Chanel, it just makes me think about German fashion fascism, and that
which is such an interesting point in history. Like, I think about like what they were trying to represent, and like, so they're trying to represent like an idealism. So you probably do want it. Like, I'm thinking about like, do you want like the waist to taper, and you want like big shoulders.
Yes,
Like you
yes.
want a small waist, but like manly legs. So maybe you have something that's a little like jodhpur
Part. Yes,
inspired.
exactly. Occupying space where there really is none.
Yeah, like you have the long. I think like you have the long boot to make the leg look longer.
Yes.
And I think of like it's very regal and it's very like masculine. Like
yes, the very straight lines. It's yeah.
And I feel like a lot of the military dress in Star Wars follows that same line.
Interesting.
And it's interesting when you get references. We did a great episode series recently on General Moff Tarkin.
Excellent.
Or Grand Moff Tarkin.
Okay.
And actually in canon, he actually ends up being gay. Which once you get to know his character, you're just like, yeah, I can see that. I can see that going on. But he has this whole section in the novel that was like focused on him where he's like re-examining the military uniform. Like he's really into the military look and like having it look a certain way and what it's supposed to communicate and what people are supposed to read from that. And it's fascinating to see like this personal interest that he takes in it. Like it's a joy that he takes in his free time.
Wow.
And it's like, oh, interesting.
Wow.
And also just to see a character who, of course, is like very high in power. He's like one of the like architects of the empire.
Wow.
But also understanding like the importance of propaganda and the importance of like communicating a message, which is very Hitler. Like it's very Nazi. Like they understood the power of like the media and of a message and communication.
Yes.
And yeah, that's what the empire is supposed to be. It's supposed to be fascist, Nazi-like regime to a T. Yeah. Like it's like copy and paste.
It does feel like copy and paste. That's a beautiful way to put it because it feels so familiar, you know?
Yeah.
And it does.
And it's also like a clear signifier of what we should be reading. Like, oh, Nazis bad.
I was thinking about the ways that clothes communicate certain messages. And I was thinking about, I see you have a baby Yoda behind you. And when we think about the outfits that, you know, that they put people in, like, do you, like, you know, bomber jackets versus flight suits versus, you know, do you wear robes that like trail against the ground? Or do you wear things like where your pants are tucked into your boots and all of these different elements? Like what kind of footwear do you have? And, you know, or even if you are someone who is not a human or humanoid, you're still wearing clothes, you know?
Yeah, some sort of like human-esque thing. Like, like aliens are not walking around in the nude. Like there is a certain like social propriety that continues on.
And it might not be the same, you know, like fully garbed thing, but it's people are covering up their nethers, you know, at the minimum. And so I wondered if you could talk a bit about what you see as the way that they communicate through fabrics. How do they communicate through fabrics? How do they kind of tell a story in the textiles themselves as you see it?
So what I think I really enjoy about Star Wars, particularly coming from a fashion history background, is that it really is more about the individual character and what we should be inferring about them rather than any particular time period or anything like that. Because it's cast like a long time ago in a galaxy far away. So it's in theory supposed to be in the past, but it's some sort of different galaxy removed from ours. So it doesn't have to follow any kind of like historic period rules, which is kind of fun.
Right. That's true. That's true. That is fun.
So you have everything from like, you think of the influence of the Jedi, how their look is clearly heavily inspired, particularly the robes, like Buddhist monks.
Yes. Okay.
And so they're supposed to seem very uniform, but very simple.
Okay.
Like very simple because they live for the Force and they live for like something bigger than themselves. So materialism is, and minimalism is really like the message with the Jedi, and that's what we're supposed to communicate.
And what I'm seeing is it looks like a lot of natural fibers to me. It looks like loosely
a lot of
woven
linen, a lot of cotton,
linen,
like occasional leathers when you get to like what they're wearing on their bodies.
Yes.
And I think that particularly increases especially as they move through the narrative from peacekeepers more to warriors and generals, which is, I think, very far removed from their original message. And I think we're supposed to read that like this is giving more armor.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. Okay.
And then you have something like Queen Amidala, Padme Amidala,
Yes.
she's from Naboo, and Naboo is they're like almost like a very old world culture. And it's
Okay.
interesting because they're very lavish. It's a lot of silks, a lot of brocades, like
Yes.
a lot of like
Yes.
flowing gowns
Yes.
and like almost very like Tudor in like their like the regalness.
So there's a lot of fullness. The fact that they have so much fabric, they're not worried about how
like
much they consume. Yes, the gown has 20 yards. Every gown I own takes 20 yards.
Exactly. Like I change 3 times a day and I got my hair up in this elaborate thing.
Exactly.
Which I love. I love some pomp and circumstance. And even something, like I said before, how a character's narrative gets communicated through their costume. I think a great character that you see that with is Palpatine or Darth Sidious, who we come to later like know who's the emperor and like he's the big bad. He's the bad guy.
Yes.
Essentially, the entire problem in Star Wars stems from him wanting to live forever. That is every single problem in Star Wars. And to watch the transition of his costume is fascinating because it starts quite academic. Like at the beginning of like episode 1, it's like he's a senator, also from Naboo, and so he has like that Nabooian influence. Like it's very almost like a PhD robe.
Yes,
you have like the big regalia with the big sleeves. It's very like flowing, and then it gradually actually becomes very papal.
Wow.
And it kind of like goes from some reds, but greens and blues. Like then he starts wearing a lot of darker reds, and it's like more robe-like. And then it's very Pope-like, but like dark Pope.
Yes. Okay.
Which I think is also supposed to communicate a message just about like they belittle the absolute power of like church and extremism.
Yes, exactly. And you have all these teams of powerful people who are also supporting you, and you also have infallible authority that doesn't get to question. That no one gets to question.
No one gets to question.
You can't be in the faith, but also ask questions.
Exactly. And I love that journey of his costume that you can kind of watch over the course of the movies, like as he reveals more to the audience of his like dark intentions. Like his costume gets darker and darker, and kind of more, more like overlordy, popey, like grandeur, but in a different kind of way.
Wow.
And as I mentioned with Anakin's costumes, he goes from being a little boy, being in this like light colored, simple, like linen, maybe even like burlap tunic.
Yes.
To in episode 2, Attack of the Clones, he is in a lot of browns. In a lot of browns, and he has that short, like boyish look to him.
Yes.
And then by Revenge of the Sith, he's in all black. He has like the longer hair. He has the scar.
Yes.
Like still like at the beginning of the movie, like the friendly, like loving character who now has a lot of secrets because now he's like secret married and and like holding all this stuff, and now he's a general in a war that we don't see at that point. But all these things happen to him, and he's on the road to the dark side. He's already like questioning that moral light that he's been raised in. And it's just fascinating to see that progress. And then you have, I don't know, like I find like we talked about the military dress with the clone troopers and how their costumes change. But then you have scoundrels.
Do you have a favorite costume?
I have a favorite costume. I mean, I think I always enjoy what they did with Padme's costumes.
Okay.
Because she was a queen and she was just elaborate. I loved it. Anything like the senators, like I think Mon Mothma gets great costumes. Just that like senatorial regalia. I love a regalia. I think is very elegant. Yeah, anyone on Coruscant. Just,
oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, I think is just really cool. Because
awesome.
It's fun. It's fun. It's fun. It's opulent.
It is exactly that. Now, we are going to have to wrap up our conversation. So let me ask you the question that we end all the episodes with. The slogan of the Stitch Please podcast is that we will help you get your stitch together. Kristine McPartlin, mind behind Mind the Force podcast. How would you advise us to get our stitch together?
Girl, let me tell you. I would say, you know what? Just keep doing things that you enjoy in life. I think life is too short to not nerd out on the things that you love.
Wow. And on that note, thank you so much, Kristine, for being here. Tell us where we can find your show.
So you can find us at mindtheforce.com. You can check us out on Facebook and Instagram under Mind the Force. And you can also find all our episodes on all your favorite podcast streaming platforms.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You've been listening to Stitch Please, the official podcast of Black Women Stitch, the sewing group where Black Lives Matter. We appreciate you joining us this week and every week for stories that center Black women, girls, and femmes in sewing. We invite you to join the Black Women Stitch Patreon community with giving levels beginning at $5 a month. Your contributions help us bring the Stitch Please podcast to you every week. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your support, and come back next week and we'll help you get your stitch together.